Now we're going to move on to, I would call it the first cousin of reverb, and that is delay. Now, delay is like an echo. So if you just imagine you're standing by a mountain and you shout, hello, and then you hear, hello, hello, hello. That's delay. And a lot of people confuse delay, echo, and reverb. And I think the word echo might be fuzzy in between reverb and delay. But when we think of reverb, we're thinking of the reverberation of a room. But when we say delay, we're thinking of a sound coming after the original source. So that's the reflection, you could say, of that mountain. You shout your name, and then 1 second later you hear it coming back at you from that mountain. It's that delay in time. You might think to yourself, well, delay and reverb then are closely related in that they echo or reverberate a sound after the original source. But in practice, you'll be surprised how often delay is used as a type of reverb. And in fact, what's tended to happen in the modern times is reverb has actually lost its prominence in music. In the 50s and 60s and 70s, reverb was very big, even in the 80s. But from the 90s to the 2000s and now in the last sort of 5 years, in the last 15 to 20 years, reverb has really lost its prominence in music. Reverb still has its place, but something that's happened is delay has become a much more prominent effect in music. And in fact, most of the top producers use a lot more delay than they use reverb. Now, there's many kinds of delay. There's actually 3 main kinds that I'm going to speak about today. The first one is digital delay. And in fact, we've got 2 digitals. I'm just going to write here reverb there. Verb. Digital delay was the word used, the term used to delay a sound later than what it came in. And initially, this was just used to create 1 or 2 delays from the original sound, almost, as I said, like an echo. This is a very, very simple thing, and usually we just measure this in milliseconds. But it can get a little bit more complicated because what came out after digital delay was something called multi-tap or stereo delay. So what happens in a multi-tap delay or a stereo delay is people started to say, well, why instead of having 1 delay just coming after the signal, we have multi-delays? Imagine we had the original sound, and then we had another echo, and then another one, and another one. And then somebody else said, well, what if we had the original sound? Okay, imagine this is now we're looking at the sound. There's the sound. And then later on, we have one of the echoes or the delays on the left. And then we had a little bit later another delay on the right, and then another one on the left. So you can imagine the original delay was done with tape. They would have a recording of the line. I mean, it makes me think of Led Zeppelin famous song where you can hear the lead line and then you hear a delay of his line a bit later. In that recording, in that mix, they must have actually recorded the lead onto another piece of tape and then pushed play a little bit later and ran it through some kind of EQ or filter to make it sound, like a high pass or something to make it sound different. So that was the old hard way of doing it. In the 80s, they started coming out with digital delays that were rack mount units, like I said, like these digital reverbs. It seems like anything that came in a rack mount had the word digital in front of it. And then they started coming out with these multi-tap and stereo delays. So it started to get more complex. So you could assign how many milliseconds later the first delay would come and where would it be, left, right, center, or 30% left, 30% right. And then you could decide how many milliseconds the second one would come and how many milliseconds the third. And let me tell you something, stereo delay is something heavily in use today, but not using 19-inch rack mount electronic equipment anymore, but through software plugins. And where this really comes into play today, and where it really becomes powerful, is when it comes to synchronizing the multi-tap stereo delay with the tempo of the music. And the next kind of delay is called tape loop delay. So tape loop delay is kind of going back again. We're going back to the origins of delay. And what they did was they figured out that if they took a piece of tape and they put it in a loop, if they recorded something on that tape, it would repeat and repeat and repeat. So then they realized that if they took that repeat and they sped up the tape, then it would repeat faster. And if they slowed it down, it would repeat slower. So they could feed a sound onto this tape loop and get some kind of a delay or an echo And it has a certain sound to it because tape has a certain sound, but also what would happen was the moment you put anything on a loop and you feed it through an EQ or something like that, the EQ gets exaggerated more and more each time. And that's because of the loop. And tape loop delay has a certain sound to it that is especially synonymous with reggae music and dancehall and reggae, especially Jamaican styles of music. You find they use the tape loop delay a lot. Now today we have virtual tape loop delay in software, so you don't have to have a physical piece of tape, and you can just imagine the maintenance on a machine like that would have been a nightmare. I'm pretty sure all the original tape loop delays of those days are broken. If not, there's a handful that still work. So that is the last type of delay that I'm going to go through today that is important for you to know when it comes time for you to make your own music. If you enjoyed that lesson and you'd like to take your music mixing and mastering to that top 10 level, then we would love to help you at advancedmusicproduction.com. Click the link to learn more about our AMP membership and our AMP private coaching programs.